This game, boy howdy, do I have a lot to say about this game. You know, for some reason, every so often, I'm just drawn back into this game. I don't know why, I don't even like it at this point. It's just kinda intertwined with my psyche to a point where it's just, I think about this game way too much for its own good. And I thought that, hey, why don't I share these thoughts with the rest of the Jailbreak community? And that's what I'm gonna do. I am going to be chronicling all of my thoughts on Jailbreak, going era by era, seeing what worked and didn't work, what I like and didn't like. And this series is going to be kind of therapeutical for myself because my thoughts on Jailbreak have always been so polarizing. There have been points in time where I really loved the game and some points where it just pisses me off. And what better place to start at than the thing that brought Jailbreak into existence? No, not the game itself, but the game before it, Prison Life. I feel like this is the perfect place to start at in terms of judging the game for what it was when it was created, because the standards for Roblox games back in the day were very, very lower than what they are now. Well, what exactly is Prison Life? Well, basically, it's a game where you either choose to become a prisoner or a police officer. Your job as a prisoner is to escape the prison by any means necessary. And as a cop, you're supposed to stop these prisoners from escaping. What? Oh, that's it? Oh, what, you expect me to go any deeper into the gameplay? Yeah, there was essentially nothing else in terms of gameplay. I mean, you could become a criminal and go back to the prison and kill the cops that try to keep you prisoner there. But even then, it's really basic, and that was pretty much to be expected with Roblox games at the time. I mean, I guess it was kind of a roleplay game, which I'm not really a fan of those games, so I'm not really a fan of Prison Life, so bleh. Yeah, as you can tell, this game did not really age that well, which is pretty unfortunate because I think if the game was much more realized, I think the game could be much more fun than what we have now. I'm pretty sure the developer was gonna add some updates later on, but those never got made, so we're just left with a pretty boring game. I'm also not gonna talk about Redwood Prison because that's pretty much the same game. So, later on down the pipeline, Asimo and Bad CC Void decided to create one more game after creating their first game full, to create something that would evolve the prison genre, and that would be Jailbreak. You still had your cops and prisoners, but now there's much more to do after escaping the prison. You now had this massive open world to explore with a bunch of bases, weapons, and most importantly, robberies. The conflict between cops and criminals has extended way beyond the scope of the prison now, and has now become a full-fledged cops and robbers game. Oh yeah, for those wondering, I'm only going to be talking about the era that spans from the release from 2017 to mid to late 2018, because I feel like those years are what encapsulates what I call classic Jailbreak. So the extent of this video is only going to cover like until the new weapon system was added. So what exactly are my thoughts on this era of Jailbreak? And I gotta say, there's a reason why this game was always on top of the popular page back in the day. Because you know what I said about them wanting to evolve beyond what the prison genre was at the time? They decided to evolve past what every Roblox game was doing back in the day. In terms of vehicles, while being pretty simple, at the time they had one of the best vehicle chassis that there was on the Roblox platform. Mainly because the chassis was very good to control and was very smooth on rough and smooth surfaces alike. So in a game where a lot of the time you're going from point A to point B, it was very fun to drive through the map. And no, just because it has a good vehicle chassis does not make Jailbreak a vehicle game. I'll get to that in another video. And I think how refined the overall game was another factor of why Jailbreak always dominated the Roblox platform. Now, I'm not going to say that the game was perfectly polished or anything because there were glaring issues. First of all, the release of the trains was a train wreck. While they were fixed much later on, when they were first released, they were very, very buggy. They were nigh unusable for people with low-end devices because you would just be launched into the stratosphere if you try to rob it at certain points. I suppose that's a virtue of trains being released in quote-unquote beta, but I mean, let's face it, that's just an excuse for Bedemo to release that update in such an unfinished state, which for some reason that mistake was repeated later on, but we'll get to that in another video like I said. And there were numerous bugs concerning the vehicle chassis because for some reason, especially on electric vehicles, when you ram your car straight into a hard surface, your car starts spinning around uncontrollably and eventually gets flinged out of the map into the death plane. And this glitch has been infamously dubbed as the UFO glitch because it spins around like a UFO. But other than those glaring bugs, I honestly can't remember the game being that broken or unpolished back in that day. It was probably because the game had a much smaller scope than what it has now. But honestly, I look back on it now, and the game was very solid for what it was back then. Is what I would say to you if I was fucking lying. Partially. Now see, I tell you that Jailbreak is a game of cops and robbers. There are two halves to one game. Except, what if it isn't? Now sure, that statement might be true if you're talking about Jailbreak from early 2017, but it is certainly not true once you go into every later version of Jailbreak. Because here is gonna be probably my biggest hot take in this video. Cop gameplay is fundamentally flawed and is simply not fun at all. I know, I'm aware, that is a bold claim, but if you think about it, how much content do cops really get in the grand scheme of things? You know, a lot of the updates that people get really excited about are the robberies, and guess what? Cops don't really have access to most of them. In fact, when you think about it, what are the most that cops really do? Their only purpose is to just arrest criminals. They literally only exist to be an opposition for criminals to worry about. See, now when you play as a criminal, your mission is to rob these stores enough times so you get enough money to buy all of the cars in the game. At least that's how progression worked back in those days. And robbing those stores is what makes this game fun. But when you think about cop gameplay, the most that they do is just try to go after criminals, try to tase them, and hold E to arrest them. Doesn't that sound like really shallow gameplay? Because me personally, I played Jailbreak to experience all the fun robberies, because those robberies are fun to play with. I couldn't give less of a shit about the number go up that is the money system. And when you're playing as a cop, you get access to virtually none of that. And to me, cops don't really have any engaging gameplay that makes them stand on their own. Cops only exist because criminals exist. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't really find trying to tase criminals, which half of the time always jump around, so it's always a hassle to stun them, and hold E to arrest them to get a little bit of money. Like, I don't think I'm crazy for thinking that doesn't sound fun at all. Because criminal gameplay is literally just a better version of cop gameplay. I don't understand why people would subject themselves to playing as cop when criminal gameplay is so much more fun. It's hard to say if team balancing was ever an issue in this period because I know it was really bad after the new weapon system was introduced, but we're not talking about that era yet. I will say that I don't think balancing was much of an issue like early in the game's lifespan because we had the horrible old weapon system, and because the game was much simpler back then, I think both teams were on equal playing field. Again, it's hard to say because we can't really go back in time and see how the game was back then. I've yet to find a game that successfully restores 2017 or 2018 Jailbreak to a functional state, but if somebody could make that, that'd really be helpful. Oh yeah, also, there's the issue of camping. I distinctly remember that there was a significant push to prevent camping in Jailbreak, but I'll save my distinct thoughts for camping another day. All I'll say is that It's not good. Not at all. No, don't like it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on cop gameplay. Do with it for what you will. It just kind of sucks that you can't really take it out of the game because it's such a fundamental part of the competitiveness and challenge that comes from Jailbreak. It just kind of sucks that that side of the game is just really, really bad. It sucks. It's no good. Maybe if it were to be rethought, if the whole game were to be rethought, maybe every robbery could have a criminal side and a police side to it. Like, that's a different, philosophy that every robbery could have, so that cops actually have, something to do. I know that the passenger train has that, but they make significantly less money than criminals do from it. But again, that's another era. We'll talk about that another day. What else? Oh, yeah. This thing. You guys know this thing. We all love this thing. I don't. It's really bad. At least now. Yeah, so the Volt bike was added in the 2017 Winter Update, which I thought was really cool because it is a reference to Bedima's other game, Volt, that they made before Jailbreak. I thought that was kind of cute. But people know this thing as anything but cute. But I will say that I never got the Volt bike until mid-2019, so I never actually got to use the Volt bike before it got the major chassis change. And when I look back on people using the Volt bike when it first came out, I noticed that the Volt bike functioned more like an actual car that abides by the laws of physics than the monstrosity that it is now. Of course, it still has busted acceleration, and it is way too goddamn fast for such a small vehicle that nobody can catch, but I feel like it would be less overpowered if it functioned more like this. Because the Volt bike we know now doesn't abide by the laws of physics, because it kind of just floats. It doesn't have any, proper gravity that every other car has. It doesn't, crash properly. It doesn't go up terrain properly. It's very, very weird. But this version of the Volt bike actually collides with road and terrain much more realistically than what it does now. You know, like a real fucking vehicle? Of course, we don't have that anymore because low-end devices were experiencing the UFO glitch I said before, so they just had to completely rework it, but I kinda wish something like this were to be restored. And of course, we'll talk about the current Volt bike issues in another video, but yeah. What else to talk about? There's rocket fuel, which was a completely fuck-busted addition. I still have no idea why they added this. I guess it's a useful way to escape cops, but now you've just irrelevantized cop chases. Well, I guess you're making Robux off of it. Yeah. I guess on that topic, we can talk about the April Fool's update of 2018, which is still the best April Fool's update that they've ever done, no question about it. There was also the Ready Player One event, which Jailbreak participated in, which is still one of my favorite things that they've done with the game. I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for side quests, but I really enjoy doing this charming little side quest for Wade Watts. I don't know, maybe it was because you had to do this thing for someone and it kind of had narrative significance to it, and I just thought that was really cool. I don't know, I just really liked it. I think Jailbreak could totally benefit from doing more of these things, you know, aside from blatantly ripping off Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. But again, I'll talk about that later. Anything else to talk about? Let's see. Daily missions were a thing, and they were a complete fucking joke. Like, honestly, for the time that they were in the game, people just kept on doing them accidentally. They were just, more of a laughingstock of a feature than anything. And there were apartments. Again, another useless feature. Why was this here? Why were these added? They literally do nothing. They don't even give you a fucking spawn point. Why? Why were you adding these things? They also added the soccer goal thing after the museum was added. Another thing that I don't know why they decided to add it. I mean, it's a harmless feature, but they could have focused their resources on something much better. Yeah, some updates were very hit or miss, but in my opinion, most of them were hits in this time period. And some of these were holdoffs for what would be much better updates to come in the future. But other than that, I think Jailbreak during this time was being handled very well. Again, I say there was a reason why this game dominated the popular page back in the day. It's because the gameplay loop was very fun, and they kept on pumping out consistently good updates, with some hit or miss, but mostly hits. Also, I see a lot of flack against the 2017 winter update in the community, and I just gotta say my opinion. There was a ton of innovation in this update, not just for Roblox, because, like, the train was a moving robbery, and even though it was buggy as all hell, it was a moving robbery nonetheless, and no one really attempted that back then. And because of that, it laid the groundwork for future mobile robberies to be added to the game. You know, things like the cargo plane, the passenger train, the cargo ship, the bank truck, these would all not exist if it weren't for the train being added. And plus, other than that, it was very content rich. Like, we got 3 new vehicles, a new safe that will be a mainstay for the game, new bank vault, which was a first for the game, and a bunch of other stuff. Plus, it was our first winter map, which is really cool. Anyway, enough of my bias about the first winter update that got added. It's easy to see why Jailbreak was so popular back in the day, and from here on out, it's a big mystery if they'll keep up this momentum of good gameplay and updates going. So if you would be interested in hearing my thoughts on the future eras of Jailbreak, be sure to let me know. I would love to be able to share my thoughts and opinions here. And I suppose on that note, thank you for watching.